Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara. I'm here to welcome you into the world of orgasmic living by hosting experts to discuss orgasmic topics such as nutrition, spirituality, personal development, sexuality, and much more. Here, we will offer lifestyle lessons that can help you lead a fulfilling, joyous, and orgasmic lifestyle. I'm your guide, Venus O'Hara. Welcome to the 25th episode of the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara. In this new moon episode, I'll be discussing the sexual wellness business, consent, and abortion rights. We'll be speaking to Heather Montgomery, the founder of PleaseMe.com. Then, I'll be discussing the book I'm reading now, which is Coffee with Colby, 365 Days of Fresh Brewed Spirit Inspiration by Colby Rebel. And finally, we'll be experiencing a guided meditation with affirmations for body autonomy. But first, let's talk about my own view on abortion rights. I feel really nervous sharing my opinions or perspective on abortion rights. I was asked about this a year ago on a radio station here in Barcelona, and I shared my views, which I will share with you in a few moments. When I got home from the radio interview, I received a very long email from one of my followers who told me that she found my views to be offensive. And I was thinking, oh my God, I mean, I do talk about provocative content, but my objective is never, ever, ever to offend anyone, even though in life that can be kind of impossible. But the thought that I had offended someone with my views, which I thought were quite reasonable, was eye-opening, to say the least. Anyway, this particular follower told me that she was born with a genetic disorder that a lot of people who are pregnant who find out their fetus has this disorder. I don't even remember what it was, but she said that they were often aborted. And she felt that what I had shared was like saying that she didn't deserve to be alive or something. And that was the implication. And I was thinking, no, that's not what I thought. That's not what I was thinking at all. And I felt really sad for her. Because I think this is a very, very complex topic, but given what's been happening over the last few weeks and just this last few days especially, I feel like I really do have to share my own perspective. I don't feel obliged. I just feel a calling to actually share what I do feel, what I do think about this. And I remember 4 years ago when they had the referendum in Ireland, I felt very, very emotional when that happened, because I was brought up Irish Catholic with kind of, that you're not supposed to have sex, not supposed to enjoy sex, and abstinence is the only way. And if you don't do that, then you're a bad person. And even though that's pretty terrible, that is what has inspired me to become a sexual wellness content creator. And I don't think that sex is a sin. I think sex is natural. And I do feel that sex is beautiful. It's not always like that. It can be, not so beautiful sometimes. I think you have to choose carefully who you're having sex with and make sure you like them and they like you and they respect you. And that's very, very important. And yeah, so that's the first thing, really. I think there's a lot of, I think abortion is something that should be available as a last resort. But I think there should be other things in place to kind of prevent that situation from happening. And it all starts with sex education. I think it's very important to have a proper sex education and not have your head in the sand when it comes to education about contraception. I mean, I went to a Catholic school and they didn't tell us anything. It was all about marriage and, they didn't tell us that we had to be virgins and weren't getting married, but it was all about, the only methods were available were like pulling withdrawal and the rhythm method. And that's not really what we should be teaching people. And then there was, after school, there's a year after, there's a few people who are already pregnant at the age of 16, and that's not really because they were, we're not kind of informed about a lot of these things about contraception, whereas in the Protestant school down the road, they're putting condoms on cucumbers. And I think that we cannot be in denial about the existence of sex or the desire to have sex, and making people feel bad about it is not really the way to address this. And I think the first and foremost, we should be encouraging people to have self-respect, self-love, and to teach them about boundaries and consent, and to only do things that they genuinely want and desire, and then to have information about all the different types of contraception, how to use them, and available contraception. Because in the UK, I used to get free condoms, but to actually acquire the education that I do have about contraception and safe sex, etc., I found it in women's magazines. It wasn't from school, and everyone should have this information. I had a natural curiosity about it, whereas not everyone does. But this is, and we only had 1 or 2 classes in the whole of school. This is something that is the kind of basis of life. It's so important. We make so many decisions based on our sexuality, on our emotional life as well, and to give 2 classes to it. How often in your life are you going to use algebra, whereas you're doing that every week in maths, whereas sex education and personal education and it's just so important. So that's the starting point. We should have proper education about everything to do with sex, sexual orientation, about pregnancy, about even abortion, all the different types of what an abortion is, the different methods, etc., and about childbirth. We didn't get to see childbirth videos at school, but some people do as part of their sex education. I definitely think it's a good thing. And then I think there should be some more systems in place for people who find themselves in a situation where they are pregnant, and maybe if people say you can have the baby and give it up for adoption, but how much support is there really for people to do that? I would say it would be nice to have more support for that, for people in that situation. They could have psychological support, financial support, and all the help that they need, really, because it's I don't think we should be criticizing women who find themselves in this situation. I think they should be supported 100%. And so I think with the correct personal responsibility and the responsibility from the state and educational establishments, then the abortion should really be a last resort, because if everyone's educated and everyone is honouring consent and boundaries, then hopefully there would be less unwanted pregnancies. But I don't think anyone should be forced to have a pregnancy that they don't want to have, or have a baby that they don't want to have, because that is a lot. It's a big implication. It's a big thing to happen to your body and to your mental health. And if you can't handle it, and then you've got a baby growing inside you that you don't think that you can look after, and it's preventing you from looking after yourself. I just think it's not fair to make someone have a child that they don't want to have. And also, if there isn't legal abortion, people find other ways to do it that could be life-threatening, which is obviously absolutely terrible. And also, when obviously coming from an Irish background, you hear all these stories of women who had to travel to the UK, and that's, I just can't imagine what it must have been like to actually have to get on a plane or a ferry or whatever, go to a private clinic and then heal in a hotel, and then go home when you've just had this kind of intervention. It's just very wow. For me myself, I have this sounds really naive what I'm about to say, but I kind of feel sometimes that it doesn't affect me that, or I've always kind of I've always been super careful with contraception, and I've also always used condoms and I've taken the pill as well in the past, sometimes both at the same time. I don't really, I don't cross my fingers and hope for the best. I've just taken as many precautions as I possibly can. But imagine if I was in a situation where a miracle happened, and then even though I had taken all these precautions, I got pregnant and I didn't really want to be with that person or have that child, or God forbid if I was raped or something. I just don't think that, or if going through that pregnancy was going to be a threat to my life, or it was going to be a situation that I wasn't going to be able to handle. I just don't think I should be, or anyone should be, forced to have it. But yeah, for myself, I have been, whenever I've had an accident, even the first time I ever had sex, which I've already shared on this channel, on this podcast, I was in a situation where I was the victim of stealthing, where my first boyfriend removed the condom without telling me. And then I found myself, I said to him, "I'm so wet." And he said, "That's because you've got millions of sperm inside of you." And me that night, that was a Friday night, and I'll never forget it. I could hardly sleep. I was a bit drunk, and then suddenly the drunkenness wore off quite quickly. And I had to go to my family doctor to get the morning after pill. And I have done that a few times when I have been in that situation, but it's very, a lot of nausea, and I couldn't really tell my family or anyone what was going on, but I just thought I had to do it just to try and prevent any further worry down the line. But I think sometimes, we can kind of think about the fetus or the baby, but we are born through women, and this is a fact, and we cannot force people to go through something like that if they don't feel that they are able to. And I think it's so important to have abortion rights for anyone who needs it. And yeah, I just think it's body autonomy is a basic right. It really is important. I don't think I could have, if I was born in a different era without, where there wasn't contraception like now, or I don't think I would enjoy sex as much as I do. So I'm grateful to be born when I am born in a time when, I do love condoms, as I've already shared many times here, and I used to take the pill. So I think for me, I've never really been so afraid of getting pregnant, and also the times I have, been at risk, I've always taken the morning after pill, and thank God those things exist. And the education I had, thankfully, was in magazines. I'm very well informed about it, and I had an interest in this subject that not many people have. And I think we all should be educated more and have the resources, the financial and mental, psychological resources to help people in this situation, and not to judge them, because you never know what someone's story is. You just don't know. And I think people need more support and understanding, because it's not an ideal situation to be in by any means. And I don't think people do it. It's there's a lot of pain involved, emotional pain, guilt, and I think people need support, not criticism. Anyone who decides to go through with an abortion, but of course they need to be accessible for everyone who needs it. Now it's time for this episode's interview. We'll be speaking to Heather Montgomery, the founder of PleaseMe.com. Okay, Heather. Hi, Heather. Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. I'm so excited to speak to you because you've been on my radar for many years now. I heard about Please Me several years ago, and you are the founder of Please Me. Can you tell us what Please Me is?
Yes, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be on your show. And I'm a huge fan of yours since I started creating Please Me. I've seen you do amazing things. And so thank you for having me. Please Me is really a tool for us to have access to a private portal where we can explore our sexuality, look for healing modalities, be entertained, and from the internet, from the privacy of your own home. And it's also a connection to the community of people who are living their best, most sex positive lives. And we're going to be having events and, an NFT club with travel and lifestyle. And like, I really wanted to help people explore and then bring it into real life and experience um, more pleasure in their lives. And so it's a portal to personal pleasure is really what it is.
I went on it last night for the first time, actually. I thought it was very interesting because obviously sexuality is such a massive topic. There are many ways to live
Yeah.
sexuality. And I guess I like the idea of these different worlds. Can you
Yeah.
explain a bit more about that and how you created them?
Yeah, I mean, when I first had the dream, which it was literally a dream in the middle of the night, the whole thing came to me as a download 10 years ago, and I was a little afraid of it. But one of the things in the dream was the fact that how is this going to be a place that everyone would feel comfortable coming? Where they're going to see what it is that they like and be around people that have similar preferences and be able to really connect in a more, tailored and custom and curated community. And so I really just felt like there was more than just vanilla and kink. I mean, like what that was such two simple little words to describe such a wide spectrum of like preferences and lifestyles. And so we created a team and we went through every item we could find that was a sexual activity and put them on the spreadsheet and kind of thought what would keep somebody from going to the next world, what would be like a hard no, which is really interesting. That's really what it ended up being about. Where were people drawing lines on like hard no's? And so and we ran it by a bunch of different genders and age groups and people that live different lifestyles. So we made sure we weren't missing anything. And I'm sure we'll continue to learn and expand that. But we really felt like there was like 7 communities that were pretty significant or specific, that ranged from very traditional to extreme sadomasochism. And then, of course, your Tantra, Kama Sutra, Kundalini crowd, yoga crowd, um, being in there as well. So, yeah, we had fun. We really did have a lot of fun creating the worlds.
Yeah, I really found it interesting because I mean, my sexuality has evolved over the years. Obviously being in
Mm,
the sexual industry, the sexual wellness industry, that has changed as well, has a massive influence on me. And sometimes I don't want to be exposed to certain types of content because I've just seen too much of it. And I really like that fact that I could be protected from things that make me feel sick rather than aroused. Like some of the S&M stuff. I used to be really into that years ago, and now I just think, oh, I don't know. I
yeah,
find it a bit different since I had a spiritual awakening. I mean, I just have a very
sure.
different perception on it, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that makes me very happy because my thought for myself, even when I was creating it, was I don't want to see what I don't want to see.
yeah,
Like I'm here to feel pleasure. And if then I see something like you said that has the opposite effect of arousal or, you know, enjoyment, then
yeah.
I'm defeating the purpose, like, oh God, didn't want to see
Because I find in
that.
this industry, sometimes you just get things landing in your phone or your inbox that you don't necessarily want to see. Because I think somehow people have this perception that everything goes, or everything's okay, because it's all we're promoting sexuality at the end of the day. But I mean, I've become very sensitive to that now, and
Hmm. Agreed. And I think that's the key, right? Is that we want to create a world in which consent is the reality, mind, body, and spirit. So even looking at something is giving your consent, right? That you're willing to take that in and absorb that energy or that content or that idea, right?
absolutely.
Um,
And I was
yeah.
fascinated
So
by the
being
idea
able to,
that you had this you had this came to you in a dream. Do you often have vivid dreams? Do you record your dreams? I mean, was it a
I
recurring dream?
have it's the weirdest thing. I usually don't remember my dreams, which is why that was so incredibly significant because I remembered it in such vivid detail. And it was like 3 in the morning. I sat up out of bed and I was just overwhelmed with what was that? Like what was that? So much so that I did another thing I never do. I got up out of bed, went and got a piece of paper and a pen and wrote down as much as I could remember. And then I went back to sleep. And then I got up like, 8 a.m., a few hours, 5 hours later. And I was like, still drawn right back to the piece of paper. And I went and I put it in a PowerPoint presentation. Like I tried to give it some color and some feeling and some, like life. And I still have that one from 10 years ago. And it's funny, I look back at the original and not much has really changed,
Oh, wow.
like, which is good. It really held true to the vision that was, shared with me, I guess you would call it.
Just
Yeah.
last week, I bought a notebook for my dream journal as well. So I'm really excited. I'm like tripping every night when I go to bed. It's crazy. There's lots of interesting thing happening. I'm just thought I'm going to start writing this down. So maybe I'll get a great
It's
idea
a
too. But it's interesting, isn't it?
it's a great practice. I know a lot of people swear by dream journaling,
Mhm.
that it really impacts their lives in a big way. I would love to. I just don't, I wake up and go, what, I don't have to remember. So I have to work on remembering my dreams first before I can journal them. Yeah.
So what industry were you in when you had this dream?
Health and wellness, and the medical, anti-aging, sexual wellness, but more general health and wellness, age reversal, technology, stem cell therapy, genetics, advanced lipids, and a lot of it ended up surfacing around sexual wellness because when people's cardiovascular systems are down or when they have diabetes or when they're overweight, a lot of times their erectile function, libidos, etc., that engine that runs the car isn't working right, so all the propellers stop spinning. Like it's a sign when your sexual function goes that there's a bigger problem, either emotionally or
Mm.
physically. And so I found that kind of always being part of helping improve people's quality of life. But that's not really why I went into that. I went into that because my area of life that I had trouble with was dating and relationships,
Okay.
and growing up in a very Christian, Midwestern home, I did not get a lot of um, positive, pleasurable education about sex. It was more about what not to do and why not to do it and how scary it should be and how shameful you should feel. And so it took a long time before I was like, this really is not working for me. Not enough orgasms. Don't want to get married and divorced again. I'm kind of like you. I don't know if I really want to live with anybody ever again. Like
Okay.
I'm just like, and not because I'm afraid, because I really do enjoy being free and by myself and with the ability to, love multiple people, I think, when I want to.
Yeah, I also had a religious upbringing, but I think I'm kind of grateful to it because I think it's given me this
Me
incredible
too.
perspective on what
Yes,
it's like to be on the other side, so to speak,
for
and
sure.
understand the problems. And I do think that the church is a great aphrodisiac as well. All of that repression.
Yeah. Yes. If we were to be honest, yes. There's something about getting what you're not supposed to have, right?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. But now I'm
definitely.
spiritual. I do see it all as very divine, and I do feel that orgasms are connecting with God somehow. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
yeah,
Creativity, and well, it's what creates life. How could it not be
absolutely.
connecting with God? I mean, it's a miracle, 1 in 400 trillion chance that we get born, you know,
Mhm.
and it happens during that, right?
Definitely.
So
So,
I say, holy shit, yeah, that's God for sure.
so I watched an interview yesterday, and you said that you were quite worried about what people would think when you started a sexual wellness company. But was there a specific moment when you thought, I don't care what anyone else thinks, I'm going to go for it? Was there a specific moment, or was it a gradual process? And if it was a moment, what was that moment like, or what was the trigger?
I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with 18 women 5 years ago, in a mutual pledge to show women that it was important to give themselves self-care and focus and work on their health and do things that they enjoy. And it was with the Real Housewives of New York. One of them was organizing it with some nonprofits and places in the space, and it was great. And I guess I just got to a point on the mountain, and I had never climbed anything but a bar stool before that. Like, I was not a climber. And my friends were like, my kids were like, you're gonna do what? Like, I rollerblade and ski and do some sports, but not 19,341 feet in the air, and so it was very out of character for me. And on the mountain, it was very difficult. It was not an easy thing. I mean, many people don't make it to the top. Some people even die on the way there. It's not hanging off Mount Everest, but it is definitely an emotional and physical, you know, um, test, I
And where
guess.
is this? And where is it?
Tanzania, Africa.
Okay.
Um, yeah, Mount Kilimanjaro.
So
Yes,
you
it's
on the
my
mountain and then you kind of had the realization, or what?
I was on the mountain and I decided, fuck what people think. Like, that this is something that will help people and that you need yourself. Like if you need it, then the chances are other people need it too. And you were asked to do this. It's been 5 years, time up.
Okay.
The timing is now. Like, let's go. Like, just go do it. And so I say that, but then, another 4 months went into planning and reaching out to people that I really would want to work with me on the project and saying, this is what I want to do. And I can't imagine doing it without you. And would you come work for me for free 10 hours a week for the next 3 months until we finish our business plan and get some funding? Um, I went to 9 people and 4 said yes. So that's how we started. Um, and then we've raised like 1.5 million so far, and we're about to work our way into NFTs and um, bringing more utility to that space and bringing the community back into hot events and sexy travel and great conferences and being face to face and connecting. Social well being on the planet, so important. People are
Absolutely.
lonely and scared. We need to get back together and show the world what love is. So that's our goal.
Definitely. And how do you find the sexual wellness business? Is it what you expected?
That's a great question. I mean, I guess so. I expected that it was not going to be as easy as other industries. Reading and having known about the restrictions and advertising and banking and all the business challenges, that regulatory concerns, legal concerns. There's a lot there, especially as a technology company. So that part of it is definitely um, more challenging than probably people even give it credit for. It just really is difficult. And there's a cultural and social taboo still out there. There's still a lot of discrimination against sexuality, right? Or discrimination against it being okay to be sexual, right? And so you face a cultural, while we're shifting and changing and morphing, there's still a great resistance to that change. So that part has been fun though, because it's like we've got a lot to do, but we have something that we can help fix. You know what I mean? Like, so it's kind of inspiring and difficult at the same time. But it would be nice to get a lot more funding for this
Mhm.
space, and to see more of the tech companies and big companies stand up and say, we're jumping on the pride thing, we're jumping on Me Too, but we're still acting like sex doesn't happen.
Mm.
Like, let's start to change some, like we need to start talking about this stuff. We need to start supporting people's needs in these areas and stop pretending it doesn't exist. So I think that's happening too, though. I think we're getting there, and the younger generations are kind of demanding that of
I think
their.
it's changed a lot. I mean, but over the years, I've been in this in the industry now for 13 years, and there's been massive changes.
uh,
And I think
yeah,
I've seen so many people start up these online sex shops. I mean, I've seen millions of
mhm,
them, and none of them last. But I think people have this perception that sex sells, and we're taught
right,
that sex sells, but it doesn't sell itself alone. You've got to really
yeah,
work and overcome all of these obstacles that you've been
100%.
mentioning. Yeah.
Yeah. And the biggest one, I think, is women giving themselves permission to talk, explore, enjoy, be proud, step into it. Like, we have the bird in the cage syndrome a little bit sometimes with women, where you open the doors and they're just like, I don't know, I'm afraid to fly out. Is it, am I going to be judged? Like I said, I was afraid to start the company. What was my family going to think? Or my kids going to face, my kids going to go to school and their school teachers go, oh, your mom's that lady. you know are they going to get treated differently
Was it as
because
bad as
of
you
what I
thought?
do?
Was it as bad as you
You know
thought?
what's interesting? I never really got asked what I did. I just said I own a technology. We never really, it never came out. I don't do a lot of posting of my kids on social media. I never did. I was kind of a private person, which is why I built an anonymous platform. But so I kind of always kept my private and my public life separate. I mean, my work and my private life separate. So, and my family didn't care at all,
Oh,
which I
wow.
was so interesting to me. They actually were very encouraging, and both my mom and my dad, and not one person in my family has said, "I can't believe you're doing this," or anything like that. Nobody. People in society have, but my
Yeah.
family has not been one of them. Yeah.
Because I found some judgment over the years with friends who I thought were open-minded, and then they've been very judgmental towards me. I got rid of them, of course. But what surprised me the most is how people perceive you to be an open person. They tell you their secrets, which is just
All of
incredible,
them.
isn't it?
Oh my goodness. Every
Yeah.
time I would tell people what I did, they would go, "Oh my God, so I can tell you this." And I would be like, wait, sometimes it would just be a little bit TMI, like for maybe where I was at or what I was doing. And I was like, people really do want to talk about this. They really
Mm.
do want to talk about it. Because as soon as they know you're cool, they start talking about it, to your
Oh
point.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And then people have told me that
100.
infidelities, they're that have an orgasm. It means massive secrets they haven't told their best friends or their partners in the first meeting with me. It's like, it's
Yeah. They get to
incredible.
unload.
Definitely.
It's liberating. It's great to find somebody that you be like, ah, especially somebody that's expert like you, like that can actually provide good information and rebuttal to those things, you know?
Well, I find that those comments or messages or even face-to-face kind of experiences, I see them as messages from the universe to tell me that I'm on the right path, that I'm doing something good, because I have to kind of deal with that challenge every single day, of the judgment, and it has, it's not easy. Which comes to my next question. I mean, how do you find working in a fun sector? Does it make sex less fun? For example, when I was a student, I did lots of waitressing jobs. I said never pizza. I'm not doing a pizza place because that's my favorite dish, and I do not want to ruin it.
To- Totally.
So
Totally.
how has this been for you, like working in something that you thought was a fun, like pastime before, and now it's your job? I mean, how is this?
I mean, it's a great question. I would say for me, it has been very, expansive, right? So alongside of my sexual journey, I continued my personal development journey and, psychedelics and microdosing and learning how to fine tune the body. So I'm like, the company will only go as far as we as leaders are willing to stretch and learn and grow and be able to offer. So it's been fun. I can't say that it stopped being fun, but what I will say is that, as a founder in any company or a entrepreneur running your own business, you work a lot more than you
Mm.
think you will at a regular job. So that part, I will say that I work hard and play hard, and I've been enjoying that. And then you're the mom, so you have that like double life too, a little bit. But I do manage to still enjoy it. I haven't gotten sick of it yet. There's so much to learn. Like
Oh
I'm still
yeah.
like I'm like I want to get into the yoga, kundalini more, and tantra, and some of those retreats, and you know I haven't done any of that yet, really.
But I
So
find for me, it's made it more challenging to meet people who are not intimidated. I mean,
yes,
the ones who aren't, I mean, who just see me as a normal person in my hoodie and no makeup, and I like people to see through my job and see me.
yeah,
But for many
yes,
people, it's very intimidating. I don't feel like I can go on any dating apps or anything like that. I mean, it'd just be too shocking. And I've had people, it's like they think it's all really cool, but then I've got a spare room with 700 sex toys, and I've got sex toys
right,
everywhere,
yeah.
and suddenly it's not so cool. Or I've seen a lot of impotence in my bedroom, floor pointers instead of ceiling pointers. So it's been really challenging, and I'm not really. I'm kind of at a moment in my life where I would like. I broke up with someone a year ago. I'm going to start working with
Yeah,
a love coach this year because I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? Because I mean, people make a lot of assumptions when you're in this industry
yeah,
that I'm open to swinging or promiscuity, which I'm not. Which nothing wrong with that
yeah,
if that's what you want to do.
right,
But I'm very different. I think I like someone. I want to know their surname, and what I mean.
sure,
I want to find a deeper connection because for just the physical thing, I've got amazing toys and my imagination,
right,
and so I find it
yeah.
very challenging, to to find someone who's going to understand this and not feel intimidated. Because I remember sometimes with my last relationship, I have to test toys, and I'm kind of like not feeling like sex sometimes.
Yeah, totally understand
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Little, like I masturbated 4 times today. I think I'm good. Yeah.
okay, well, I've just started one. I did a
No,
full
I'm
moon
making a
today.
joke.
Oh right.
Just making a joke. Like when you're testing toys, right? You're like, oh
Yeah.
God, and another one. Actually, I did have one day like that. I reviewed like 4 toys in a row, and I did video reviews, and I want to be authentic. So I'm like, I'm gonna play with myself with these 2 toys right before I do the review so I can be like,
Fresh.
fresh, and in a state of orgasmic bliss. So anyway, yeah, that was a fun day. Yeah. I don't think I did have sex that night, come to think of it.
Yeah, and
I don't
also
think
because
I did.
and also I'm getting into this kind of like spirituality, kind of spiritual masturbation thing. So I was
Yeah.
thinking, which is very fascinating. But then I was thinking I'd rather have sex with myself and have this deep thing than just
Mm,
do it in out, shake it all about kind of thing with the partner, just relationship
yeah.
maintenance sex. I just wasn't into that. So
Yeah. You
so it's
weren't
like
feeling it.
yeah, it's also very because there's a lot of expectations that people think because you're with a sexpert that you're going to be like having loads of sex every night. But if it's a couple's toy, I'm like, come on.
Well, you know what, what you just said is really powerful because, even as a sexpert, we go through phases. Like, and I wouldn't have ever thought I was going to call myself a sexpert. I really call myself more of like a sex advocate, like a
Mm.
sexuality advocate. But, I've learned some things and but I go too. I broke up with somebody. I'm like, I don't want to touch another man right now. Like, I just don't.
Mhm.
Like I need some time by myself and I'm gonna go do some fun things and go to fun places and work out and play tennis and masturbate when I want to and like oh like I just so it doesn't matter how sexperty we are, we go through like emotions and life changes that affect our desire, libido, preference, fantasy at that moment. So we're not immune.
Yeah.
If anything, we probably deal with it more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was your biggest challenge when you created Please Me?
My biggest challenge. I'm going to say that one of the most challenging aspects has been fundraising,
Okay.
due to all of the reasons. I mean, we all know women get 3% of the financing that's out there for entrepreneurship, which is tiny anyway. And then add to that a company that's sexually focused that is wanting to allow for uncensored content to be available to only adults. Um, and you get some pretty people that have money that are pretty reserved and say, we like the idea, we know you want to help the world, and we know that this is really going to have power to heal people's lives, but you
Mm.
know it's sexuality. I'm like, yes. Yes it is. So that's not the right investor. So it's just finding that right uh, vibe and tribe in the financing world, because I think we're starting to see that expand with cannabis investors and people that are investing into psychedelics. There's more, you know, interest in solving real problems and getting people their health and their spirituality and their love, you know,
Mm.
fixes.
I think a lot of
So,
language has a big influence as well, because I mean, language that we use around sexuality has changed a lot since I've been in this
yes.
industry. And, now the term sex toy is becoming a little bit taboo or a little bit vulgar, and people are saying sexual wellness products or something like that. That surely should
Yeah.
help things. And people using the word intimacy instead of like couple sex, there's a lot of ways that make it
Yeah.
seem less shocking.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a little more mild version of the truth. I mean, yes, I totally agree. I think people are saying pleasure products too, because instead of sex toy, because it's not just a toy, it is really, a medical device in
Mm,
essence. I mean, I came from the medical device area, and the things that you have to prove to make something a medical device is that it has a positive impact and that it's needed in order for people to get that, right? And a sex toy definitely does those things. I mean, we know for a fact what orgasms do with serotonin and all the feel good hormones and how they impact our sleep and our anxiety and our depression and our heart and our immune system. So I would call it a medical device, even ones that are made well, that aren't
Yeah.
pieces of crap, you know? And there are some that are actually medical devices that are helping, the pelvic floor, but you still can have an orgasm doing Kegels, right? Like,
Yeah, 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 definitely.
you know, so, but yeah, I think those changes help. I think the other really difficult thing was I, even though I was in it and I lived it, I guess once you kind of move to the other side of something, you forget how much resistance there is in people that are still there. I don't know if that makes sense. Like when I was so afraid to buy a sex toy or to masturbate or to communicate what I wanted or that I wanted anything, that feeling of I don't know where to go. I don't know if I should say something, if I shouldn't say something. Am I okay? Should I like I want to have a better outcome here, but where do I really go? And even when people would say, hey, do you want to do this? I was still so afraid to talk about the sexual traumas I had had, as a child or the rapes that it had, you know what I mean? Like those deeply pushed down things are in a lot of people. And so that resistance to sex, um, I guess the breakthrough level is a lot higher than I thought it would be in the general population. If that makes sense. Bringing people
Yeah, yeah.
over, is harder, basically, than I thought it would be.
Definitely. I think that so many people have some sort of sexual trauma, and even myself included. And I always used to kind of repress these
Mm,
feelings. And anytime I saw someone in the news who'd been through something, I just kind of like haven't seen that, haven't seen that. But then when the Me Too thing happened, it was just so in your face, you couldn't ignore it. And now it's
yeah,
actually helped me to process my own
yeah,
traumas, which is quite interesting just to realize that it's everywhere. And it's kind of like gives me
yeah,
I kind of feel now that it's giving me an extra sense of understanding or
yeah.
empathy, trying to process what's happened but not be so afraid of it.
Correct.
Mm.
And I think it's just, and I know this sounds terrible because who wants to not be alone when it comes to being abused? But my point is like, oh, it wasn't just me. I didn't deserve it. You know how people end up making
Mm.
themselves responsible somehow, even if they're 5 or 6, like that little mind, that trauma, response in the brain, which changes your adult identity development. Like you're literally the development you were going to have just got shifted, right? And we have to be able to shift it back to create a new identity. That's scary, right? Because the pain was for most people pretty strong. But that's why I think one of the things I want to focus on for Please Me for like new members is just like really getting them to ask questions about this area of their life and understanding why it's important to give it some focus and to not have it fractionally pushed over here to the side like it's not part of your whole entire being,
Mm.
like my sexuality is over here, but my work, everything, family, it's all over here, but my sexuality is over here. Like, no, it's
It's part of
you're
you.
still the same being. Like, you got to bring that integration in. And in order to do that, you got to understand it and love it and talk to it and, you know, have it be, I guess, progressing, right? So dynamic sexuality. Have it. We're going to be going through different things, whether it's menopause or pregnancy or um, losing an over. There's so many things as women alone that we get to experience, right? That
Mm.
affect our sexuality. And so nobody gave us a manual and said, here you go. This is how you do it, you know? Um, and so taking that time to go, where am I at with what I enjoy? Where am I at with my core beliefs? Are they serving me? Basically, it's a very simple question. Is sex currently having a positive impact on my life, or is it having a negative impact on my life? I mean, that's really where everybody, I think, can start. So
Mm.
it's a new way to look at sex positive.
Mm, definitely. I read this book.
Like,
I read this book called Living an Orgasmic Life. Have you heard of it? By
I
Janet
know.
Haylett. Let me just get it from my bookshelf. My sex.
Yeah.
Hold on. Where is it? Oh, highly recommend it. It's I was attracted to the title, obviously, Living an Orgasmic
Yeah.
Life, Heal Yourself
Yeah.
and Awaken Your Pleasure. And it's written by a woman who she's called, and I don't know how to pronounce her name properly, Janet with the X,
Mm,
Paylett.
okay.
And basically, it's, I thought this is going to be a really light, frivolous read. No, it wasn't. It talks about trauma, attachment
Yeah.
styles.
Yeah.
I kind of was almost traumatized by the first half of it is about getting over your trauma. And then it gets into the pleasure side of like sensuality and
Uh-huh.
tantra meditation and things like that.
Mhm.
Because this chapter blocks to intimacy. So I found it
Yeah.
very, very hard going. And some people I know who are also survivors found it quite difficult as well. But the
Mm.
author, she had her sexual awakening at the age of 51 after being in a sexless marriage for 25 years. So her own story is fascinating.
Wow.
And one of the
Yeah.
chapters starts saying, imagine if I told you the best sex of your life is still ahead of you. I was like, wow, I hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. The best is yet to come, babe. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's really, really interesting. And she's in California. If you ever go there,
Mm.
she's the forward is by Emily Morse, The Sex with Emily. So check her
Oh,
out. This is
Dr.
such a great
Emily.
book. It's such a great
Oh,
book.
totally.
Yeah, it's got great reviews as well, but it's very unsettling for me sometimes. And then it got more orgasmic as it went on. But
As it went on. Well, and doesn't it truly, when you start to address your traumas, your life does get more orgasmic as you go along.
yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, there's a kind of a metaphor, but yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. It radically changed my life when I addressed those. That
Mhm.
was the biggest step. And to the point where, I mean, I wouldn't even tell nobody knew those things happened to me.
Mm.
Now I talk about it in open air, basically broadcast
Yeah.
style, which I thought I would never do. Like if anybody asked me about it, I tell the whole story. Yeah. But there was a time in 30 some years, I never told my mother. I never told anybody in my family. Nobody knew. Nobody
That's why
knew.
I found that there's so many people have these stories that help me with my own. So I
Hmm.
just felt like it was more normal in a bad
Yeah.
way. Like kind of like it was easy to deal with kind of thing.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. You don't feel so alone. Like, oh my God, maybe there's people I can talk to about this. Maybe they know how I feel. Maybe they felt the same way. Maybe they have something that might help me. Maybe they're further along in their journey.
Yeah,
Or
this is how we
maybe
need
I
to talk
am.
about consent so much. It's so important that we talk
Yes.
about consent. It's such a big topic.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the five pillars. I go over what I say are the five pillars that you should really make sure you're fine tuning or addressing. And one of it is boundaries and communication, which of course is essentially
Hmm.
consent, right? Knowing your boundary and being able to communicate it.
And also
Um,
communicating your triggers, like things that can trigger,
mm,
some kind of things that you've lived in a non-consensual situation. Because I think some
yeah.
guys, from what my experience, and I'm not really a porn lover, and I found that some guys just assume that just because you're naked in bed with them that they can do whatever they want and they can
Yeah.
reenact some porn film and spit on you and slap you around, and it's like, hang on a minute, did I tell you I
Right.
wanted this? I think there needs to be maybe
Right.
more conversations about what's okay and what's not okay.
Well, that is what I loved about BDSM when I started. That's where I started my exploration was that world. And I love that 5 point contract that they
Mm,
go over before you enter a scene. And I thought to myself, why are we not doing something more like this with every sexual
absolutely.
interaction? Like, do you have anything I should know about that would, cause you pain? Like you have a neck issue, like, is there any health issue that I need to know about before we go into this? Number one, you know,
Mm,
um, and number two, what are your hard limits? What are your on your absolute yes list? Which of these toys do you want to play with? Which of these toys do you not want to play with? I mean, like it was great. I was like, wait, what are we doing?
yeah.
This is fantastic. Like I was like, by the end of it, I felt safe
Yeah.
to just put myself in that Dom's hands, who, by the way, I found out was 22. I
Wow.
thought he was like 26. And I was like, and when he told me his age, he saw my face turn white as a sheet. And he was an instructor at a studio in LA. And his name was Sour Patch Kid. But anyway, when he finally, and I met him at the Folsom Street Festival, I went out there for work, at a networking event in one of the dungeons. Anyway, um, I mean, literally, he went through his whole bag. He must have spent an hour and 20 minutes talking to me before we went into the scene. And I had the most amazing time. And I even got over the fact that he was so young. You know what I mean? Like, which normally I wouldn't have been able to get over. Like, no, I have a
Absolutely.
son older than that, or my son was a little, like, 1 year younger than that at that time. You know, and I'm like,
Wow.
uh, I wish you would not have told me that. I was already freaking out about 26, in my
Yeah,
mind. That's what I thought. That's
that's
what I
another
thought he
perk
was.
of the job is networking in dungeons.
Yeah, networking in dungeons. I mean, it was at a street festival for, Folsom, which is, have you been to Folsom out in San Fran? It's one of the
No, never been
largest
to California, no.
leather and fetish events in the world, and and it's just fun. There's lots of costumes and personality styles, and it's largely more of a LGBTQ plus festival, but heterosexual people go to, that are into fetish.
But I find this
Yeah,
pretty amazing with even though I'm not into all types of sexual expression. I'm a real voyeur. So through
yeah,
press content contacts, I've always been invited to many different events and parties and stuff. And I've just gone along just to see. And I find it fascinating to see how other people have sex, even though I might not want to
yeah,
join in, but I mean, I'm just like, wow, it's amazing. So
yeah. Fun to
yeah,
watch. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's also like how we learn too, and I think, how do we know what is right for us unless we see it and go, that's not right for me, you
Hmm.
know? But as long as I don't have to do it,
Yeah.
it's not so unpleasant that I can't be around it. And sometimes it is, and you're like, no, I'm not doing that again. No.
I
I
think
always tell people I'm a trisexual. I'll try anything
oh
twice.
yeah,
You know?
twice. Great.
Yeah.
'Cause I think for me, what attracted me to this sector in the beginning was just a matter of fact, just how people discuss things in a very matter of fact way. And I've been brought up with lots of taboo, so that's what I really.
Yes.
You can be in a fetish party and people are whipping each other, but you're having a work conversation with an editor next to them. I just kind of love those contrasts.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also noticed when you go to those events, whether it was lifestyle, I mean, BDSM or more of a swinging poly environment, it was so different than going to the bar, as a woman and feeling like all the other women are competing with you for the men and like that whole high school, nightclub scene that, who's the hottest girl in the place kind of feeling. Whereas when you would go to these parties, it was the women were like, hi, nice to meet you. I'm, so and so, tell me about yourself. I was very pleasantly surprised to see that that was the general vibe and that it was much more um, less competitive, I would call it, like, if that makes sense.
More
Then
friendly.
it felt like
Mhm.
more friendly, more genuinely friendly, authentically friendly, than when I was out, like, at the clubs, growing up
Mhm.
in the dating scene, music scene, party scene. Let's call it what it is. When I was in the party scene.
So I heard you're currently working with Joyful Reviews, is that correct?
Yeah, Joyful Reviews is a company out of Hungary that created a technology that will house both podcast, video, and blog reviews for products that are currently censored on other networks. So, like, I don't know how many of your fans have experienced, things that are no longer available on YouTube or that are restricted or that you can't watch, on other platforms because of censorship
Mhm.
of sex and sexuality. And so more and more people are having a hard time educating on those topics, right? And getting useful information to people's hands. And then, of course, people in the industry who have knowledge can create reviews and share that out in the world and make some commissions, which everything today is online, and creator economies where people can work from home and do what they love and make some money educating and helping the world in some way. So pleasure coaches and experts can do reviews and send them out there. And we've all done this for years in the affiliate marketing. We just used to use little links, right? But this provides much more like dynamic um, review experience. So, and then you can also ask the reviewer a question. So there's a way to like get in contact with the reviewer, um, and your fans can share it out, and they make a little money for sharing it. So it kind of
Oh,
feeds into the economy and the education that Please Me's really keen on helping to promote, right, in the world is that piece of education. Because I think what makes sex so scary, or things like buying a sex toy like unpleasant, is you just you don't know how to ask questions about it. You don't want to, maybe you're even too embarrassed to ask questions about it, right? So then they go unanswered, and then you get something that wasn't really the right match for what you were looking for. So this way they can explore and learn and listen and get different perspectives from different people, before they buy. So hopefully they'll make better purchasing decisions and learn some stuff along the way. I mean, when I do my reviews, I always add in some like tips and pointers and good things to know, that I wish I would have known before I bought the toy, you know?
Absolutely, because the toys are not cheap, so people need to.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
getting up there, you know, but
yeah,
they're also getting pretty fun. Like they've got some
yeah.
pretty cool features and bells and whistles. But yeah, I think the average price now is $73
Wow.
for
So
a sex toy.
what's your favorite toy then? That takes me to the next question. Do you have a favorite toy at this moment? Or
I do. I do. I'm a wand girl.
okay.
I like power
Mhm.
vibrator. Um yes. And I like edging. So for people why would go, why would you want a power tool? Because I like to edge. I like to drive myself crazy and then back off, drive myself crazy. But honestly, I use a lot of times, it depends on like what I'm doing. Like when we're going out, it's fun to use some of the teledildonics
Oh
toys
yeah,
where
yeah.
your partner can play with you. So those can be really fun too. But like, what do I use the most? You know, would be that wand.
Any
Um,
particular wand?
I like low wand is
Okay.
one of the ones I like, because it's just so easy to use in the buttons. But I also like O wand, which came out of
Love it.
England.
I
Oh
love
my
it.
God,
I was
I
hooked on that for
love that thing.
years. That was my top five for like 2017, 2018. So I make top five videos at the end of the year,
Yeah.
and that was a 3 year consecutive like top
Oh
five.
yeah.
That
I call it
candle is
Oh,
amazing.
I love it. I call it my husband. And
Yeah.
the other reason I love it, it's a little stronger than the Lawand. And it also, of course, is completely encased in silicone, so it's waterproof.
Mm.
And I broke my other Lawand because I brought it to a sex party and somebody else used it and they washed it. And it has like, that neck there. So I think water got down into the the wand, and it wasn't a cheap toy, so
Yeah.
it would kind of suck to lose that. I mean, it's my fault for letting my husband wander around a sex party, but alone. But at the same time, I was like, dang, I have to buy another one. But I did buy another one because I do really like, the Lawan turns on and off like with ease. The O wand, you have to hold the button down for like 3 seconds, and then like I find myself in the throw. When I'm in the throws, I just want to hit the button,
Yeah,
turn
exactly.
it off, not worry about figuring it out, holding it down for 3 seconds.
Also, if someone
So
interrupts you, it's important, if your phone rings
yeah,
or anything
you got
like
to
that.
be like,
Yeah, yeah. I love
turn it off.
I've got the Lawanda's amazing as well because it's a 3 hour battery or something. So you get a lot of orgasms out of it.
Oh my God, it's so powerful too. I mean, it's just that thing. And that handle, you're right, is so cool.
Mhm.
Like, I just love it. Hmm.
Yeah, because it's like a hug. Because the way you hold it is like different, when it's
Yeah,
curved. It's really, really nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do like G Spot. I do like G Spot simulators as well.
Mhm.
Um, at times, depending, like if I'm play with myself more, I like to use something inside and outside. I like dual orgasms.
What you could
So
do is
I'll use,
Kegel balls and the O wand at the same time with the jiggle ball.
oh,
Because then when you have the orgasm,
okay.
it's like woo, like kind of shaking inside.
Ooh, I'm gonna try that. I have one from Oh My Bod. They just sent me a sample and I need to do a review on that. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get my wand out and my Kegel balls and try that. That
Yeah,
sounds like a
double up.
plan. Thank you. What a great idea.
Let me know how it goes.
I will. I
So,
will.
a few quick questions. What is the book that changed your life?
Oh, The Road Less Traveled by M. Scott Peck when I was 18 years old. See how long that took me?
Oh, wow.
I remember that. I remember that book. I had broken my wrist snowboarding, and somebody said you should read The Road Less Traveled. And I read it and I said, I'm going out and I'm going to travel the world. Like, even though it's not about going out and traveling. The road less traveled is taking a path that's not like beaten, off the beaten path sometimes. But I just really, it empowered my belief in creating your own reality and not being afraid, and, tapping into the spiritual, the physical, the mental, emotional triad of health, and just going out there and giving it your best shot, kind of a thing. And I remember the first line, it's life is difficult. The sooner you realize that life is difficult, the easier it becomes.
Oh
And
wow,
I
really?
thought, I thought, oh, how apropos, it's in the complaining about the difficulty and the expecting life to be simple that we get disappointed, right? And then we get stuck in that disappointment. But if you're not expecting it to be always butterflies, rainbows, and ease,
Mhm.
then it's not so shocking when every once in a while you get a little bump of difficulty. So yeah, that was definitely one.
Fantastic. Have you read it again over the years, or just read it once? Or is it something you read it?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I have read that book. I think three separate times over, like, but usually long periods in between. The other book I read frequently is, well, it was originally written in the early 1800s by a man, and so of course it's written as a man thinketh, but they've redone it and have it as a woman thinks, like changing all the pronouns so that it can also be appropriate for either of those two genders. And I'm like, we should just make it as a person thinketh at this point, like, we can gender neutral it out. But that was a very very impactful book for me, and then the Four Agreements,
Oh,
probably
I need to
right
read
up there.
that, Four Agreements, because that's been on my list for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. As a Man Thinketh, really deep. Like, you have to read a page and then stop and like just think about it for a while. um And there's one little tiny book I got at a Chinese herbal shop in Chinatown, New York, and it's written by a yogi, and it's called, oh my God, I want to say something like a return to love. I know that's not it. That's Marianne Williamson, but it's very similar to that type of idea. And it was just the smallest book, and it was so impactful. I'll let you know when I get home, because I'm right now in Miami, but I have the book. I carry it with me, actually.
Was it the Tao Te Ching or something? The Taoist?
No, no, it was a red book, and it was written by one yogi who
Oh,
studied under Yogananda. I forget which Yogananda. And um, it was, yeah, I can't believe I can't think of the name of it. I'm just having a fart. And I bought it and given it to other people. You know what I mean? Like, that's one of those books where I'm like, you got to have this one.
okay. Is it a
So,
small book or a big book? It's not the. Oh, okay. Ah,
mhm,
okay.
yeah.
Do you have a quote that you live by, a quote or an affirmation that you use a lot?
Yeah, I say health begins in the mind and education is the key. And when I moved into sexual health, I just said sexual health begins in the mind and education is the key. I mean, it really doesn't change a lot. And so I really, for me, it's about people being empowered, and education empowers you to change things that you're not happy with, right? So if we want to live our best lives, then we should always remain students of whatever it is that we're looking to focus on at that time, right? So for me, that's a big one.
Okay. So where can people find
Yeah.
you?
Well, for sure on pleaseme.com, they can follow my channel, Heather C. Montgomery. I'm also on LinkedIn for business. And then the other place is on Twitter. And I'm on some of the other social media, but like it's there, but I haven't posted in a long time on Instagram and Facebook. I don't see the point with all the censorship and all my friends getting deleted and me not getting to see the content that I really want to see. I don't I don't really want to continue to spend my time in that environment. So I go there like when I have to.
What about LinkedIn then? Because LinkedIn, I don't know if.
LinkedIn
Yeah.
LinkedIn for business. So if you're in the pleasure industry and you want to collaborate with Please Me, we love that. We're here to support everybody in exchange. Like, we need to support each other, right? To
Mhm.
to make this change in the world. It's going to take all of us. So that's a good place for business collaborations. Yeah. Please me is the best place to like connect with me on a more personal level.
And please with a Z or a Z, as you say.
Yeah, with a
Yeah.
Z for privacy, PLEAZEME.com. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much for this interview. It's been very thought provoking, and it's nice.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's like one of my crushes. Like I've been watching you as an educator for 4 years and like I want to work with Venus. I want to, so thank you for finally you know, having time for me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. The book I'm reading now is Coffee with Colby, 365 Days of Fresh Brewed Spirit Inspiration. And this is written by Colby Rebel. And she is an international psychic medium and the number one best-selling author of Psychic Senses and Leap of Faith. She also has a podcast called Coffee with Colby, and I'm actually going to be interviewing her for this podcast in a couple of weeks. I've interviewed so many people for this podcast, and I'm very excited about interviewing a psychic. I'm very attracted to the world of psychics, and I think I did actually visit a psychic healer last summer, and I found the experience to be enlightening, very interesting. And I do feel as though I have a little bit of a psychic gift, or I'm very in tune with my own intuition. And this kind of feeling is growing in me every single day. And I'm very excited about speaking to Colby Rebel when we actually do. We have our interview in a couple of weeks, so I'm very much looking forward to that. And I'm hoping that she will give me a small reading during the interview, which is going to be exciting. And I think you have to be open-minded to kind of to believe this kind of stuff. I think a lot of people don't believe psychics, other people do, and some people can actually believe them too much and become reliant on them for some reason. Or well, I guess like people, I guess we're all looking for answers outside of ourselves when actually we can find a lot of answers within. And this book is quite interesting because it says 365 days of fresh brewed spirit inspiration. And the idea is that you can read a small message from spirit every day and read it in order. And that would be for a year, 365 days. Or you can actually use it as a divination tool, and you can just literally open the book at any given page and just think that's your message from the universe for the day. And I kind of like doing it that way, really, rather than going it through it in order. I'm going to do a quick open now on a random page, and I'm going to read a message for you all. Let's see. Open, okay, 144. When you uphold your boundaries, there will be those that don't like it and may find ways to make you feel less than them, or to make you feel selfish because they need that to justify their motivation. See them for who they are and release them with love. Surround yourself with those that honor you. What a great message. I've actually been thinking about that today. Actually, I saw someone else's Twitter today, not Twitter, sorry, Instagram, Leola, who is someone I interviewed a few months ago, and she has a Tantra podcast, and she was sharing a post about a cord cutting meditation, which is something I have done a few times actually in my life. I felt, and this kind of actually has a similar message, the one I've just read right now. And I think it's interesting, or kind of, it's a fascinating process to do this meditation where you actually imagine the person who is kind of bothering you or criticizing you or making you feel bad about yourself somehow, and or also or someone who could be overstepping or your boundaries or not respecting them. And I think part of us, the ego, wants to kind of like say, oh, I'll show them, or kind of be nasty to them or exclude them somehow or make them feel bad because they're making you feel bad. But really, it's much better to approach it with love and kind of let go and release people with love and gratitude. And that sometimes can be very difficult to do. But I found that if you are able to do that, sometimes when these people come back into your thoughts or into your life, they suddenly become less bothersome. I mean, I've had a few experiences like that where, I mean, given my profession as a sexual wellness content creator, I've had a lot of criticism in my life, a lot of people judging me. And I don't care about people who are online who don't know me making comments. I mean, that's that's part and parcel of the job. But when it's people that know me and really know who I am and have grown up with, or they've been friends for a long time, and that's when it really, really hurts. And I've had to actually step away from some friendships and relationships with people like that. And part of me was very kind of like, oh, I'm going to show them how important I am. But then actually, when I actually did this exercise where you just imagine this person and you imagine this cord between you, and you imagine there's several ways of doing it. You can kind of put your fingers like scissors and start cutting this cord, cut, until you feel that cord no longer exists, and you send them love and gratitude. Because at the end of the day, I think people who come into our lives, even though they might make us feel a little bit uncomfortable, they're always teaching us a lesson. So that's something to consider. But going back to the world of psychics and mediums, the medium part makes me a little bit it doesn't feel so good to me. I mean, I don't really feel that I need to contact anyone who has passed in my life. I'm not really interested in that, to be honest. I'm more interested in just picking up energies and kind of knowing. I think it's really tapping into the intuition, which is how I view the world of psychics. But I guess we will speak to a psychic to find out more. But I think it's more about taking away these obstacles that can be between us and our own intuition and knowing what is right for us. Because I think we have a lot of wisdom naturally, but sometimes it can be hard to find it. But in terms of contacting people who've passed or sending messages and stuff, that doesn't really sit too comfortably with me. I would always want to just kind of let people rest in peace and not really think about trying to contact someone now or thinking of their presence around me. They just feel a little bit creepy to me, to be honest. But I'm sure it's maybe not so dark as what I'm painting it to be right now. But I'm actually starting to do my own tarot readings every morning now, which I find to be kind of fun, a part of my morning routine. I wake up in the morning and now I've started a dream journal, which is really interesting after Heather telling us about her having a massive, incredible business inspiration through a dream. And I just started my dream journal a couple of days before I interviewed her. And I think sometimes if you are spiritual, sometimes you can have messages or receive messages through dreams. And also, the first thing I do in the morning now is write down the dream I've had, because they're always very vivid, and then I do a card reading of tarot, and then I read what the meaning is, and it seems to be kind of working out. It kind of is true for every day. I have a card in the morning, and that does kind of dictate the day. It might be something that I'm kind of subconsciously making happen as well, but it seems it's kind of like a fun thing, a fun way to start the day at least. And I was a bit scared of tarot for a long time. I had a deck that was given to me after a TV appearance a few years ago, and it took me a long time to get back into it. But now I'm not really scared of any cards anymore, because I remember a few years ago I used to do these readings of past, present, and future, 3 cards. And I remember once, I think the future card was moon or something that came up, and I read the meaning of it, and I wasn't really too excited about it. And then I did it again, and the same cards came up. I was like, no, let's do another reading. And the same cards came up again, like 3 times. I thought, there must be a message here for me to learn. So I think it's a fun way to kind of tap into your intuition. I also did a pendulum course last year, and I haven't actually been inspired to start using that yet, but I think all of these things can help us connect with ourselves and answer our questions, but also it is always a lot of fun to actually be in contact with a psychic and have your own questions. Or actually, when I have been to psychics or people like that in the past, I tend to not really ask anything. I like to have them come up with messages for me, and so that I know that I'm not influencing it that much. I feel it's a bit more authentic that way, unless you have a burning question, of course, then that might be a little bit different. But anyway, and also I'm enjoying reading these messages from the universe from this book in the morning when I have my coffee. And I will wonder what tomorrow's message will be. So that is Coffee with Colby, 365 days of fresh brewed spirit inspiration with Colby Rebel, and I'll be interviewing her in a few weeks. Now it's time to slow things down as we prepare for this episode's guided affirmations meditation. It's probably not a good idea to listen to this while driving or operating machinery. Instead, take a break from whatever you're doing, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and enjoy. My body is mine. I decide what happens to my body. I honor my body. I take care of myself. I protect myself from harmful situations as best I can. I am able to communicate my desires. I love my body. My body is mine. I decide what happens to my body. I look after my sexual health. I look after my mental health. I do what feels right. I seek help when I need it. I love my body. My body is mine. I decide what happens to my body. Consent is important. My boundaries must be respected. Only yes is yes. I deserve to be heard. I love my body. My body is mine. I decide what happens to my body. I decide who I am intimate with. I only do what I want to do. My feelings matter. I deserve protection. I love my body. My body is mine. I decide what happens to my body. I can communicate my triggers to my partner. I do what feels best. My pleasure is important. I am important. I love my body. My body is mine. I decide what happens to my body. I do what feels good. I respect my partner's boundaries. When something feels wrong, I can say stop. I love myself. I love my body. To find out more about me and my orgasmic lifestyle, visit venusohara.org or follow me on Instagram at instagram.com/VenusO'Hara. Make sure to search for the the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for listening, have an orgasmic week, and make sure every day is a climax.